figures. This song's called Thanatophobia. If you've ever been really, really scared of dying, that may or may not have been induced by substances that you may or may not have been on, depending on if my parole officer is hearing this. This song's for you. Cool, awesome, here we go.
Started doing that in 2015, and it was me and Jonathan and another buddy, and that other buddy left after just a couple months. We hadn't played any shows or anything. He was like, oh, I've got a friend that I've been playing music with at church. He's going to come play bass. And then enter Owen. He just graduated high school. Goofy dude, but we all clicked. The three of us clicked musically really well. Owen and I lived together in 2017 to 2019. The only space that we had to practice was in the kitchen. Kept my drum set up in the kitchen, so a lot of times I'd just be jamming drums, and he would come in and just like turn his amp on, and like there was never any conversation about like, hey, let's jam. And he'd always just be playing all kinds of riffs and stuff that didn't really fit what Paperback was doing.
And it was like some very like upbeat, like not what it sounds like now. And then we ended up writing Lucille, and then it was like, I don't know, I'm supposed to just start ripping with this. Like, this is kind of a fun vibe, a fun sound.
I mean, I've played in quite a few bands since high school, and one of the most recent ones that I played in was this band called The Burning Wind. And I played in that band with a friend of mine named Costin, and he was telling me about this band that he was playing with, and I don't know how it happened or like how the question came up, but I think I was just telling him that I was interested in jamming, and so we got together, and I got to meet like Owen and Caleb. I think I had met Caleb a little earlier thanks to A Knife in the Dark, which was like a newer band that those guys had started, yeah, I ended up getting with them in like October 2022, I think, and then we started playing shows like shortly after that.
No, it's nice. The writing process, like, obviously any time, like, you can actually, like, get in a room with people and actually play, like, I think that's where the magic happens, you know? That's where, like, all the really cool stuff comes from. Because, like, right now, I mean, even from the beginning, like, you know, I'd send scratch tracks. Like, I'd just sit with, like, and just write stuff and send it over to Caleb and let him kind of mess around with it. And, like, we kind of come up with some cool stuff, but it's always, like, once we can actually sit and play our instruments together and kind of like bounce stuff off, like that's when everything kind of starts getting tightened up. You know, you start working around like, oh, what if we accent here? What if we do a drop out here? Let's pull this out longer. This sounds bad. Let's don't do this. And I think that's where like in like movies, like that's the cutting room floor in a sense. It's just like, all right, let's pull out all this bad stuff and just get to the juicy stuff.
I can only think of it musically really, but I just love being able to provide both the rhythmic and the like musical like note values, I guess, like of the music at the same time, and I feel like that comes in with bass playing. Like I can really lock in with the drums, but I can also play the same chord notes as what the guitar is playing. And I think I'm always just trying to think of like everything at once. So I guess from that perspective, I do kind of relate to like bass playing being like kind of that touching on everything and the elements of like music.
And I think that like this band is my baby with drumming. Like this is the one where I put the time in, the effort in to being I guess, the truest version of myself with my instrument. I think that, some of the other bands I play with, it's more serving the song or more my take on something that somebody else wrote or structured out, but then this one is me. For me, I started going to shows when I was really young. I was a little skate rat. I had older friends that were going to shows, convinced my parents to let me hop in the car with them. I grew up in Mayberry, Mount Airy, 45 minutes north of Winston-Salem. And my parents let me hop in the car and go with them. I think, December 2007, I think would have been my first show. So it was like weird metalcore bands always, like a bunch of just strange stuff. But I started going to these shows and I find myself just watching the drummers. I was like, I can do that. Started telling people I played drums before I ever touched a drum set. And I was like, I knew that was what I wanted to do. And I figured it out over the next year or two. Started playing in bands myself. Mid-2009, I think I was 15. And it's just been going nonstop ever since.
So I started playing in Greensboro stuff when I was like 16, 17, like kind of around there. And like, I don't know, it was cool. I definitely think there was like, it's funny kind of like seeing how like scenes change and just like whatever the popular music of the time is kind of dominating. Cause like I came up kind of like the tail end of when like metalcore was super popular. So like everybody else played in a shitty like like metalcore band, and it was fun. Like there was like some really cool like I don't know, it just like the whole like kind of like local scene, like the DIY scene, opposed to like going to like your like big cap venues, like going to your just like your pizza places, throwing shows and like all that stuff. Like there is like kind of a sense of community that I don't know, like from a teenager, I was just like, man, this is cool. And I don't know, North Carolina is just cool. Like it just North Carolina as a whole has like a very interesting music scene. Some of it's just, home state pride kind of stuff, but you do like kind of look at it and you're just like, man, North Carolina's got something special about it.
I think for me it's just crazy because I've been doing it since I was a kid. So the way I viewed going into adulthood, it was always a priority. And it's a little weird getting older because you're like, I like almost don't talk about it anymore outside of the music scene, outside of going to shows. Like if you meet somebody somewhere and they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm more apt to, I think, talk about work, or something that feels more normal because I'm like, dang, if I tell them that at this age, how are they going to perceive it? And I keep playing because I do love it, but I don't know anything else.
I think I just see it as like an opportunity to like feel connected. I think it's one of the main ways I feel like I stay connected with other people and like other individuals that are a lot like me that just really love music and want to have this whole lifestyle centered around like the love for music. And it's I feel like for a lot of people it just gives them purpose. It makes people feel like they're doing something important with their lives. So it's definitely like something to always be looking forward to, like day to day. So that's probably what makes me feel most connected to it all.
I don't know. It's so douchey, but just the love of the game. Like I don't know. I just love playing and like. I mean, I think there's like a certain thing, especially like if you're someone who plays in bands or like are I don't know. I hate it because it is just such a like lame term, a performer. Like if you like playing your instrument, you can just sit around and play in your room, but like if you really like if you like playing in front of people, you play in front of people. And I love doing it. I like the environment, the atmosphere, connecting with everybody, just hanging out. And there's like you don't get that just playing in your room. To just do what makes you happy. Like do what you love. Blur the lines of genres, like do all that stuff. And that's like a thing that's, especially if like some of the newer stuff Holy Figures has been writing, like I'm really pushing myself to, because you almost want to get trapped. Like you start working on a riff, like you'll get this as a guitar player for sure. Like you start working on a riff and then it's cool, but you start second guessing yourself in your head. It's like, does this sound like our other stuff? Like, is this too weird? Is this too much of a stretch? And like I don't know, I'm really like working to get to a point where I'm just like, man, like, I don't care. Like, I wrote this. I'm happy with it. I'm going to do it.